Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to this kickoff call for our Small Business Accelerator. Just going to give it a moment over here just to let people join. And while we're doing that, I'm not going to lie, guys, it's really difficult to talk to myself. Everybody has their camera on off. I mean, hey, if you're in a place where you're able to switch your camera on, that would just really help me out from the perspective of just being able to feed off your energy and ensure I'm just not talking to myself. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So just as we're joining, it'd be really great if you could just use the chat box just to say salam. So it'd be good to know, hey, whereabouts are you logging in from? So where in the world are you and what industry are you in terms of your business? And we'll just give it one more moment here, just if anybody is logging on, and then we shall make a start. So where are you located and what industry are you in, or what does your business do? Okay, Shahid, Assalamu alaikum, Shahid from Toronto, IT consulting, ECNet solutions, web app software development. Great. Shaista, Assalamu alaikum, Shaista. So Orlando, Florida, originally from Toronto. So you're going to see many faces. I am now the founder of, my chat just went, founder of Netma Health, a health coaching service focused on spirituality, nutrition, and movement. Amazing. Shakir Rashid, professional engineer practicing in Vancouver, building envelope consulting engineering firm. Amazing. And Zara, based in Toronto, working for a startup in Trends Consultancy. Not currently a business owner, but an aspiring entrepreneur. I love it. That's great. And Suhaila from Toronto, French bakery owner. Excellent. I know where to go when I'm in Toronto then. Welcome. Okay. I feel like there could be some synergies here between a bakery and a health coach. You know, we can. Excellent. Well, hey, for those of you engaging in the chat, thank you very much. So for those of you who have just joined, a couple of requests. So number one, I would really appreciate it is that if you are in an appropriate environment to switch on your cameras, it just makes it much more engaging for me, and I can feed off your energy, and you get a better presentation that way as well. So that would be really appreciated. And secondly, if you can just in the chat box, just let us know where are you calling in from and what type of business do you have. So we have Farzad from Toronto, Optimal Engineering, building mechanical and electrical design services. Safraz Kara from Toronto, specializes in digital marketing, content creation for medium and large-size businesses. And Mustafa Kareem from New Jersey, IT product owner, driving right now, so probably best, I'm surprised you got to type that while you were driving, but yeah, probably best you keep your camera off. Excellent. Okay, so welcome everybody to the kickoff call for the Small Business Accelerator. I'm really excited about this initiative that NASIMCO have put on, and I'm really excited to go through this journey that we will be going on over the next 6 weeks, starting on January 25th. Just please update your calendars for that. For those of you who are expecting a January 18th, apologies, I put my hand up here. I got some last minute travel happening. So we will officially kick off on the 25th of January. So the idea behind today's call is I really wanted to kind of just meet all of you, say salam, and really set up the expectations for what you can expect for the next 6 weeks, and then answer any questions you may have, logistical or otherwise. So we can expect to be together for the next hour or so, and I'll make sure I keep this tight and keep it going. A few more people have come in here. So we have Kumail, biomedical engineering at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Don't have my own business right now, but looking forward to learning a lot. Great. And Ali Asghar Rajani from the UK. Good to see you after a long time, Ali Asghar. So welcome. Perfect. All right, so let me share my screen over here and I can get some slides up. Okay, just give me just a wave at the camera, just so you know that you can see a set of slides here and you can see me sharing my screen. Okay, perfect, brilliant. All right, so we have done this piece in terms of the welcome. So thank you for sharing a little bit about you. Let me share a little bit about what I do and the Kaizen Consulting Group, so you get an idea of how we help and support business owners. So the Kaizen Consulting Group has been going from about 2011, was established in the UK, and then opened up office in 2014 in Dubai. And then we opened up the US office over here. So I'm responsible for building out the US office in 2021, actually. And I'm going to talk you through the business and the coaching system that we use, where we've implemented it with small and medium-sized businesses to help them grow. So we've implemented this system in over 1,400 businesses now worldwide, or business leaders, with the idea of achieving growth in their business. On average, they get about 41% revenue growth, and we've supported businesses in either raising capital or actually setting up a team that actually they get to detach and the business is less dependent on them. So that's a little bit about our organization, and I'm going to talk you through the coaching methodology that we use later on this call, and then just a little bit about me here then. So I am a managing partner here. I'm responsible for building out the US office, and I actually moved to Minnesota from UK in 2019. And when I was in the UK, I qualified as a chartered accountant. I done that for a number of years before moving into much more commercial roles and then building out small businesses in the UK. I'm also an experienced leadership coach, and I think a few of you may have come to some other workshops that I have run over the past few years here. So essentially, when I moved here in 2019, I thought, how can I take my passion for self-development and leadership development, combine that with my background in business growth and finances, and then came across this great career, business coaching. And I have been and I just lost my train of thought there. Sorry. So, but I have been involved in building businesses both in Europe and the US then for a number of years now. And here's my why, right? We all talk about Simon Sinek's why. Here's my why. I love the one reason why I do this is to multiply human energy one business at a time. I genuinely believe that as entrepreneurs, we have the power to change the world, right? And I don't under exaggerate that, right? And whatever the world looks like for you, whether that's kind of your world in terms of your family, whether that's your local community, or whether you're going to build out an organization that has an impact on a global basis, we have the ability to do that. The challenge is, though, with all good intentions, sometimes what ends up happening is that I get so caught up in the business that actually my life ends up fueling my business instead of my business fueling my life. And I believe, and one of the reasons why NASIMCO, we've partnered up with NASIMCO to deliver this program, is that if the more successful entrepreneurs we have within our community, that allows us to do a number of things. But the two main things are this, is number one, we build up our monetary capacity, right? So we have funds to actually kick off the projects we want to do and all of these other things. But number two is that we have the people capacity. I remember when I was in the UK and I was just getting into kind of doing voluntary community work, I looked around me and it was mainly business owners who were doing the community work, right? And I was like, why is this? Is this like an elitist club? Is this only like a rich person's game? And actually what I learned as I started doing this is that no, it's not that. Actually, what it is that if I have a successful business that's running without me, then I'm not dependent on that 9-to-5 job, right? And therefore, if I'm not dependent on the 9-to-5 job, then it gives me the time, the resources, and the network to actually help towards the community or whatever other life projects that I have to be able to build that. And that's really why I really love seeing entrepreneurs win, because of the impact it can have not only on their own family, but the community at large and whatever communities they decide to operate in. So that is a little bit about me. And here's the thing. So, and I want to check in here, right? I'm a business coach. I'm not an educator. I'm not a consultant. And so there's a really important distinction that we need to put in here, right? Like, so as a coach, we don't give all the answers. We don't just impart a bunch of theory and knowledge. It's about actually having practical, real world things that is going to help you and hold you accountable and ask the difficult questions in order to be able to do that. So I want to check in that you guys are all okay with that. So if you can just type in a yes if you are, and we know that we are good to go. And if it's just the education that you're looking for, then YouTube is absolutely the place for you. All right, we have a few yeses coming in. Excellent. Safra, Shahid, Zahra, Shaista, Shakir, Farzad. Brilliant. Okay, Gomel, thank you very much. So let's get going here. So I'd love to know in the chat box, look, you guys decided the difficult route, right? Or route, however you say it, wherever you are in the world, okay? You decided the difficult option. I'm assuming most of you had a pretty good job that was decent paying, and you done your 9 to 5 or whatever it was. And for some reason, you decided that actually, no, I'm going to quit this and I'm going to go out there and do it for myself, right? Or are thinking about doing that based on a couple of the answers. So I'm curious to know, why did you go into business in the first place, right? What is the reason that you decided to set up your own business and not stick to what most people do, which is a job? Again, just use the chat box to put in your answers. Okay, so Aliasgar says control your own risk. Absolutely. Asad Ali said, I'm a coder. This is what we do. It's in our blood to run business. Fair enough. Shakir, I was a partner at a medium-sized firm. We got bought out by a public company that prompted me to look into opening my own. Excellent. Gomel puts more flexibility. Absolutely. Shahid put my full-time job was a job. What I do now is my passion. Amazing, Shahid. Congratulations that you're doing something that you are genuinely passionate about. And Farzad puts financial freedom. Absolutely. There's some amazing answers there. When I think about the coaching style that I do, my coaching is based on one distinction. And this is what I tell anybody who's thinking about signing on as a client. The one distinction that I put out there is that what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur is really different to what it takes to be a successful employee. Okay, there's no good or bad, it's just different. The challenge is most of us have been trained to be really good employees. What do I mean by that, right? So most of us are, I'm assuming if you're on this call, you're really good at what you do, right? You bake some amazing stuff. You're a really good health coach. You're really good in terms of setting up these IT consultancy type stuff that you do, right? So whatever business you're in, you're really good at it. The challenge is, though, that when it comes to running my own business, now I also need to be good at marketing, and I need to be good at sales, and I need to be good at managing people and leading people, and I need to be good at social media and all of these other things. And all of a sudden, some of the reasons that you've put here in terms of why you set up your business, all of a sudden now become very overwhelming, right? And the reason why I make the distinction between entrepreneur and employee is because as you guys have written in the chat box, they can generally be grouped into, I quit my job to be an entrepreneur, either because I believe that I can make more money doing it myself, or I want the freedom and flexibility that some of you spoke to, or I just really hated my boss and I needed an excuse to run away from my boss, right? And sometimes it's a mix of all three. The challenge is, though, I hand in my resignation, I start my business. Now I'm doing all of these other things on top of, actually serving my clients and doing what I do for my day job. And now all of a sudden I'm working 60, 70 hours a week and probably getting paid less per hour than I was in my job. I don't have the freedom and flexibility that I thought I would get, because guess what? If I go on vacation or holiday, nobody's there making money for me in my business, right? And the third thing is the risk is that I end up being a worse boss to myself than any of my other bosses in the corporate world, because guess what? At least they left me alone on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whereas I'm hanging out with my kids at the mosque doing whatever I'm doing. And actually I'm thinking, man, I still need to send out that email. I don't have enough money coming in, all of this type of stuff, right? And I can see some kind of nods on the screen, so I can see the familiarity over here. Okay, so I want to help you understand a few things. Hands up, or just put in the chat box, who's read this book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Just if you're on camera, give me a wave, or in the chat box, just put yes or no. Just let me know how many of you have read this book. Okay, yes, not fully read yet. Yes, okay, so a couple of you have read it. So if you've read this, this is going to be revision. If you haven't read this, this is going to be like the 2-minute overview of that book. But I really recommend anybody who's going into business to read this. So Robert Kiyosaki really describes the journey of an entrepreneur, right? And typically for most of us, this is the journey. So I am employed and I have a job. And so that's the first kind of quadrant you can be in. The second quadrant is then I hand in my resignation and I go from being employed to self-employed. Okay. Quadrant number 3 is being a business owner. And quadrant number 4 is being an investor. Okay. So an investor is somebody who has multiple businesses. Right. So the difference between employed and self-employed, I think, is fairly straightforward. One day I work for somebody, hand in my resignation. Now I'm out there doing it myself, right? Business owner to investor. One day I have one business, and at some point I buy another business, or I set up another business, and now I have multiple businesses. But here's the question: what's the difference between self-employed and business owner? What do we think? Either use the chat box or even come off mute. I'm sure you're tired of hearing my British accent right now. So what's the difference between self-employed and business owner? Any ideas? So Alyazga writes, where your business generates income whilst you are not physically in the business. Okay, absolutely, right? And Alyazga, you read the book, so you were cheating, but that's fine, right? The difference between self-employed and business owner is that when I'm self-employed, I still have a job, right? I'm doing everything in the business and I'm working all these hours and I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm still, the key thing over here is that I'm still trading time for money, right? When I'm employed, I get paid per hour, maybe I get paid a salary, but I get paid for turning up, essentially, right? When I'm self-employed, I'm still trading time for money. A business owner is somebody who actually is able to detach from the business, and even whilst they're not, as Alyazga wrote, even while they're not physically in the business, this business is still making money for them. Right? And that's the key distinction. And if we can get up here, that's when I get the true freedom and flexibility, right? That's when I'm able to go and set up multiple businesses. That's when I'm able to, my income potential is not based on how many hours that I can actually work, right? The key thing is going from employed to self-employed is a fairly easy switch over, right? One day I hand in my resignation, I'm now self-employed. Business owner to investor, buy second business, I'm now investor. It's like a digital switchover. However, going from self-employed to business owner, that's the journey, right? That's where we're setting up a bunch of stuff in your business and we're going, starting off here, and we're climbing up this ladder, aiming to get into the actual business owner element of it. The challenge is, sometimes something can happen, and whilst we're up here in business owner mode, something happens and we fall back into self-employed mode, right? Maybe a major client drops off. Maybe a key person in my business resigns. I don't know. Maybe there's a global pandemic and things go crazy in the world, right? Like whatever that is, something happens and I fall back down here. The job is then to try and get up there as quickly as possible again, right? We can actually go up and down this ladder depending on what's happening on my business. Now, some of you are going to say to me, yeah, but actually, I don't want my goal is not to set up a business that operates without me, right? Like, I love being a health coach. Actually, I want to see clients. It's not as if I want to employ 10 other health coaches to do this for me, or I love the baking or whatever businesses you have, right? And that's absolutely fine. But going into business owner mode allows you to detach to some extent, right? Maybe you don't need to do all the admin, all the invoicing, all the marketing, everything else, and you can do the piece that you love, right? So wherever you want to be on this in this model is absolutely fine, but we want to get you as close to that as possible. Hopefully that makes sense and we're good. I'm going to assume yes, but I'm going to pause for a moment just in case anybody does have any questions. Okay, good. So my definition of running a successful business is a profitable, scalable enterprise that works and grows without you being in the day-to-day of it, right? It's not you doing all the marketing, all the sales, all the finances, everything, right? You get to pick which piece you want to do, and you get to build out that business. So what does this mean then, and what are we going to be doing? So there's two things. I talked about going from entrepreneur to employee, right? And when I think about the differences between the two, there's two, well, really three factors that we need to think about. The skill set is different, the mindset is different, okay, and the discipline is different. In this 6-week program that we're talking through, we're really going to be focusing on the skill set. That's where the main focus is going to be. And we're going to bring in some mindset stuff as well, right? Now, just to clarify, and just to put a caveat on there, are we going to get from self-employed to business owner in 6 weeks? Probably not, right? But actually what the idea behind this program is that you've got the tools and the resources that you need to be able to begin this journey is what we're going for. So I want to talk you through now the coaching methodology and the areas of business that we as an organization work on and help clients through. And I want to show you how this is going to feed into the program that you've all signed up to. So on the screen here, you can see this diagram, which is the circle, and there's 3 areas of your business, right? And the 3 areas that we have is finance and growth. So before I go into that, so these 3 areas is what I believe that every business should have in order to be profitable and sustainable, right? So these are the foundational concepts of every business. So the first one being finance and growth. What do we mean by finance and growth? So finance and growth is everything to do with the money chain of the organization. The three key things that we can break down here is, number one, how do I get a consistent flow of leads coming into my business? All right. Once I've got a consistent flow of leads coming into my business, how do I now take those leads and convert them into paying customers? Right. The challenge with a lot of small businesses is that, hey, once I have people interested in my business, I do a really good job at selling to them and converting them into paying customers. But the challenge is I don't have enough people actually coming through the pipeline that I can actually sell to. So we want to get more people aware of your business and get them inquiring about what you do. Once they inquire about what you do, what's the journey that I'm going to go on to actually sell to them? All right. Now, for many of us, particularly that for those of us who come from an employed background, selling feels a little bit dirty, a little bit like some negative connotations attached to this. Right. Right. Hands up if, or not hands up, in the chat box, just type in a yes if that feels familiar. to you, right? That selling makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable when I'm thinking about selling myself, selling my business, selling my products. Yeah, a few people, right? So a couple of you people are saying yes. So let's be absolutely clear here, right? If I'm an entrepreneur, I am a salesperson by definition, right? I'm a salesperson before I am an entrepreneur, because it doesn't matter if I have the best product and the best service out there in the market. If I can't sell it, then I'm not going to be in business for much longer. Agree? Yeah. By the same token, I can have not a very good product and not a very good service, but if I'm a good salesperson, I can still make it, right? we've had that experience, right? We've bought something that we shouldn't have. We've regretted it. We haven't had the best service. It hasn't been the best quality, whatever it is, right? So, but imagine for you guys, and this is an assumption here, but I'm assuming that the very fact that you're on this call, and given that we are all part of the same ethical framework, you guys have an amazing product and amazing service, right? And actually what we need to make sure is that you're able to be in a place where you can put it out there and actually sell it with confidence, and for it not to feel awkward, right? Because that's then going to come across as your client or customer is going through that. So that's the sales. Now the money comes in. The money comes in. How am I using that money to further grow my business, to make sure that my business is continually growing? Essentially, this quadrant over here is all about how do I build the business to fund the lifestyle of the business owner, right? So that's the first area that we'll be looking at. And we'll spend most of our time here, by the way. So the first 2 or 3 sessions we'll be spending around on finance and growth. The second part is operations and scale. Okay. So here's the way I think about operations, and it might not work with this audience, but let's just give it a go. I'm assuming at some point we have ordered a fish burger from McDonald's, and I know it's and I know maybe not probably recently so, because there's more kind of should we not, but you get the idea. Even if you've never eaten from McDonald's, take a guess. If I was to ask you to rate the quality of food from McDonald's, 0 being the worst fish burger, fries, milkshake, whatever it is you could order, and 10 being the best quality food you could ever order, what rating would you give it on a scale of 0 to 10? Just feel free to put it in the chat box. Okay, I said put 6 to 7. 7, 4, 5, 4.5 compared to Hotville. Okay, all right. So I'm not gonna lie, that's some of the best ratings I've ever seen. Maybe McDonald's is really good in Toronto, seeing as where most of you are, right? But none of you have given it a 10 out of 10, right? It's kind of hovering between kind of like 4 and 6 as an average. What we can all agree on is McDonald's do not sell the best burger in the world, but yet they sell the most amount of burgers in the world, right? How is that possible? It kind of goes against every business logical sense we know, because typically we go in thinking, hey, if we have the best product and service, then we'll be able to outbeat the competition. But we know McDonald's doesn't have a great product. It definitely doesn't have great service, but yet they do absolutely amazing, right? Why is that? Because it doesn't matter whether I am in Toronto, Orlando, Minnesota, the UK, right? When I go to a McDonald's, the taste is the same, the menu is the same, the service is the same, right? All fairly average, if not worse than average, but I know what I'm getting. It's the consistency. The challenge with small business is that, hey, when I have 5 clients, I make sure they all get an amazing service, right? But what happens when 5 turns into 25, which then turns into 250, which then turns into 500? The risk is, as business owner, that I start dropping the ball on certain things, right? It doesn't go according to plan. The invoices get missed. We start getting a few more customer complaints. It's this variability in service. How do I get consistent service in my business so that actually, as I'm growing, I'm not compromising on anything? And the third part of it is the people and performance. Just in the chat box, it'd be interesting to know the mix between solopreneurs and and people who are actually hiring people. If you do hire a team of people, just type in the chat box yes for me, actually. And let me just do this. So, okay. Okay, so there's a few of you with teams over here. Okay, excellent. So so in terms of the people and performance, the area that we're looking at over here is how do I attract the best talent, and how do I nurture that best talent to create a winning team for my business, right? One of the key aspects of being able to detach from my business is having a team of people who can actually look after it. I want to get to a stage that, hey, I look after the team look after my customers pay me the money, and then it's that's the cycle that I want to go through, right? The challenge for small businesses is that we can't pay as much as the large corporates can, right? We can't provide the benefits like the large corporates can. If you are based in the US, your health insurance is tied to your employer, so there's an added layer of complication, and therefore most talented people are drawn towards the large corporates, right? How can we actually attract the best talent in our small business? And we'll be covering that in probably the last session of this program. So they're the fundamental areas of business that we will be looking at. And if you wanted to stop there, you would have a profitable, sustainable business that you have built, right? However, you can add 2 layers onto this if you really wanted to be market leaders in your industry. The first one is technology and innovation. How am I using technology? How am I innovating my business so that either I am creating efficiencies in my business or I'm adding additional value to my clients? Okay, some of you are in the IT space, but just think of, I don't know, just think of your bank, right? There used to be a time where I had to physically go into my bank to deposit a check, take out cash, do whatever I needed to do. Now I can use my smartphone. I don't need to go into the bank. I can do everything from my phone, right? The principles of banking haven't changed, but they've used technology to make things much more efficient for us. And then at the heart of everything that we do, it's around leadership and culture. How am I creating an organization that my clients love being part of, that my customers love being part of, that my local community loves that I'm actually doing business in that area, right? This is what gives us the true kind of freedom from our business once we get that right. So these are the key business principles that we cover as an organization. For the purposes of this program, for this 6 weeks program, we're going to be covering the areas in white, okay? So finance and growth, operations and scale, and people and performance. So they're the 3 areas that we will be covering. Right? And the idea is that we're going to be giving you a number of strategies for you to implement in your business. And the key thing to note here is that these are key fundamental business principles. Right? Why do I say this as principles? These are principles, not hard and fast rules. Because with principles, there's certain principles that apply to business in general. It doesn't matter where you're based in the world. It doesn't matter which industry you're based in. These are principles that you need to learn about building business. Your work then is to apply that to your world to actually get the results that you want to get. And we'll be supporting you on that and providing you with the templates and tools to be able to do that. All right. Let me pause there. Any questions, comments, or thoughts before I move on to the next section? Based on what you have heard, and no offense taken here, but based on what you have heard, do you believe that you are in the right place to be building your business? Just a yes or a no in the chat box. If you're like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, that's absolutely fine. We can make the necessary arrangements. But I want to make sure that what you signed up for is what you need in order to take your business forward. Okay, Shocker, Safra, Shaista, Zara, Suhaila, Farzad, all yes so far. Okay, good, perfect. And this is the idea behind this call, by the way, right? This is just a very open conversation of, yeah, now I know what to expect because you've signed up to this based on one poster that you saw. So I want to make sure that as we're going through this, you're like, yeah, I genuinely believe that this is going to be useful for me. All right. So I want to kick off then and go into the actual element of finance and growth. This is the area that I want to start off with, and just to set this up for the conversation that we're going to be having on January 25th. Right? So if I was to ask you, what are the most important numbers that a business owner should know to their business? What would they be? What comes to mind? Feel free to use the chat box. What are the most important numbers that I need to be tracking for my business? Okay, so Safraz puts revenue and profit. Asdali puts P&L and assets. Any other ideas? Or if you agree, you can write the same stuff down as well. Smile cam, interesting, like that. Sohaila puts P&L. Okay, so by P&L, I'm assuming you mean revenue, profit are the key numbers. CPA, cost per acquisition, so for us, right? Cost per acquisition of client, I'm assuming, of each client. Is that correct so far? Yeah, okay, great. Shakir puts revenue and profit. Okay, perfect. All right, excellent. So this is typically, as business owners, what we are focused on, right? This is typically the answers that people give out. So it's revenue, it's profit, right? Nobody said it this time. Often people say number of clients, right? Are these important numbers to be tracking? Yes, but, right, and I say a big but here, is these numbers are what we call lagging indicators, right? The challenge with lagging indicators is that when I have a look at my revenue and I have a look at my profit, I know how I done last month, right? Or I know how I done, last year in 2022. It doesn't give me a lot of indication as to what's to come, right? And therefore, what we want to do is think about, is there a different way of framing this? Because I wouldn't drive my car just looking at the rearview mirror, right? I wouldn't drive my car just looking at what's going on behind me. But when I look at revenue and profit, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking in the past. Is there another way to look at my business? And therefore, I want to show you another framework to look at numbers. By the way, what I should have said as well is that most of us go into business because we want to make money and we're really passionate about what we do. Most of us, unless you are a bookkeeper or an accountant by profession, don't go into business because we love tracking numbers. And a lot of people that I speak to, they kind of really shy away from this. The reason why I do this is the first thing that I do, having an accountancy background, I want to show you another way to track your numbers that almost, and I say almost, makes it fun to track numbers. Okay, because now this puts us in the driving seat of our business. So let me show you another way to look at this. And we call this the 5 levers to business. By the way, I'll make sure you get a copy of this slide deck and the recording. So don't worry about taking really detailed notes right now. But the 5 levers of business looks at this, right? There's a few other numbers that I want to introduce to you. So number 1 is the number of leads coming into your business. Remember, we spoke about that in the finance and growth, right? How many people are actually landing on my website, coming to my booth, walking into my shop, actually making inquiries for my business, right? So number of leads. The second number then is our conversion rate. So out of all the people that come to my business, right, how many of them actually end up signing up to my product or service that I'm selling? And that's going to give you your number of customers that you have. Sorry, that hasn't come out very well on the slide, but that says customers. Right? I then take my customers and multiply that by the number of transactions, right? So how many times do they purchase off me? Let's call it in an annual basis. Now, some of you, by the sounds of your businesses, maybe it's a one-time project that you work over an engagement for. But if it's something where, like the bakery or some of the other examples, how many times are they buying off me in a year? Multiplied by my average sales price, right? Typically, how much does a customer spend with me? Now, again, some of you have different packages, different kind of custom-made prices, different products, but whatever the average of that is. So customers multiplied by number of transactions multiplied by average revenue, average sales value gives us our revenue. And then finally, we take our revenue multiplied by our profit margin, and that gives us our profit. Okay, so remember what we talked about: customers, revenue, profit. These are lagging indicators. But if we're more focused on these ones that I've got in purple over here, these are the inputs that are going to lead to my outputs. If I'm measuring this on a regular basis, now I have an idea, right, of, well, what does February actually look like for me, right, depending on what my sales cycle is. And if I can work on improving these levers, that's when I'm able to really make an impact on my business. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, think of it like this, right? Many of us have New Year's resolutions around health and fitness goals, right? Maybe we want to lose X number of pounds. Now, at the end of the week, end of the month, I can sit on the scale and see how much weight that I've lost. Or if I'm really diligent about, and I should be careful here, right? We have a health coach on the call, but I'm just going to make some assumptions. If I track how much exercise I'm doing and what I'm actually consuming and putting into my body, right, I should get a good idea of what that number is going to look like, or if I'm making progress in the right direction towards my goals, right? So think of it that way. But I want to put some numbers to this right now, and I'm going to speed up a little bit just because I'm conscious of time. So let's say we have 4,000 leads in our business, right? Call it on a monthly basis or annual basis. Let's call it annual basis. 4,000 leads in my business. And out of those 4,000 leads, 25% of them convert to be customers. I'm going to end up with 1,000 customers. And let's say these 1,000 customers purchase twice a year. And I'm really sorry, this PowerPoint hasn't come up exactly right, but hopefully you can read it. They purchase twice a year with an average sales value of $100. I have revenue of $200,000. And let's just say I have a profit margin of 25%, then I'm going to end up with profit at the end of the year of $50,000. Okay, so I've just kind of like whistled through those numbers, but hopefully they all make sense. Now, let me ask you something. If we said, okay, we're going to work together, let's say we're working with business owner, and we said we're going to help this business owner increase all of these levers by 10%. All right. So number of leads, we're going to increase by 10%, conversion rate 10%, number of transactions, average sales value, profit margins of 10%, right? And we were really diligent in the way we've done that. We were going to provide this business owner with all the support they required. How long do you think it would take to increase these numbers by 10%? And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but let's just guesstimate in the chat box. What time frames would you give it to increase all of these by 10%? Okay, so Fraz puts 6 months. Eliezer puts 2 to 3 months. Any other takers? No more guesses. So we're going to go anywhere between 2 to 6 months. Okay, great. Asad Ali puts 4 to 6 months. Farzad 3 to 4. I'm assuming months. Okay, so the longest time scale we've got there is about 6 months. Okay, so let's say anywhere between 3 to 6 months to actually implement this. Why do I say this? Because I want to show you now what happens when we have such a systematic increase to business. So 4,000, we increased that by 10%. What does that give us? How many leads would we have? 1,540. 4,000 increased by 10%. Hopefully gives us 4,400. Excellent. Okay, perfect. We get in there. Conversion rate increases by 10%. 25% goes to how much percent? What does 25% increase to? proves my point, right? Entrepreneurs don't like, oh, a few of us reaching for our calculators and stuff. Let me help you out here. 25% goes to 27.5%, right? So that means the number of customers goes from 1,000 customers to, oh, my slides are not playing very well here at all, are they? I'm really sorry. That's meant to be 1,210. Apologies, I'm not sure what's going on over there. Okay. We then take our 1,210 customers. Average transactions and number of transactions, in a year goes from 2 to 2.2. So we're increasing number of transactions by 10%. And then the average sales value goes from 100 to 1,100. And I'm really sorry about how these slides up. You know what, actually, I'm going to do? Let me take it off slideshow mode because I'm sure it was coming up properly then. But it gives us revenue of $292,820. Our profit margin goes from 25% to 27.5%. Our profit goes to $80,500. Okay, let me just make sure you can see those numbers properly. Okay. No, it's not even coming out. I'm sorry about this, guys, right? The key thing to focus on here is that our profit goes from from $50,000 to $80,500. What that means is, and I'm going to build this back up again, by increasing each lever by 10%, our revenue has gone up 46%, and our profit through this compounding effect has gone up 61%, right? Why do I show this to you in this way? If I had said to you, imagine at the start of this conversation, I said, okay, I want you to increase your profit by 61%, right? You would have said, that sounds actually pretty tough. That sounds like a huge project. That's going to take, I don't know, a year, 2 years to do, right? It would have felt like a much harder task. But when we can break it down and we said, well, actually, by increasing each one by 10%, yeah, look at the results that we get. Now, we know this is a theoretical example. In the real world, once we increase by everything by 10%, is it always going to go that way? No, one of them is going to increase by 10%. Another one may stay stable. Another one may drop a little bit. But what we're doing now is playing with levers within our business to say, all right, we've got this project. Our number of leads have gone up. Oh, but look what's happened to conversion now. Let's do something on conversion to make sure we can keep our conversion high. We're tracking these inputs to make sure that our end goal is that we're getting the revenue and the profit increases that we want for our business. Okay. What would that look like for you? If you could get 60% increase in profit for your business, what would that mean for your business? Give me an idea, like what kind of profit increase, I'm assuming as diligent entrepreneurs, you've set up some goals for 2023. What kind of business growth are you looking for in 2023 in your business from a profit perspective? What percentages did you have down going into 2023? Feel free just to use the chat box to put that in. Okay, for Zod, 30%. Earlier ago, 25%. Okay, good. So hopefully you can see that maybe you've been a little bit cautious in terms of your growth, right? I would love for us to be having a conversation towards the end of the year and for you to say, hey, based on going on this program, we were actually able to increase our profit by a bigger percentage than we set out before going into this program. All right. So that is the skill set piece of this program. And this is just another way of showing you that diagram. What we're going to be focusing on is the finance and growth to start off with. That's where we'll spend the first kind of couple of weeks. We'll move on to operations and scale, right, in the next few weeks. And then that last week, we'll focus on people and performance. With the idea being is that you've got the tools and the frameworks to increase the revenue and the profit of your business. I want to show you a second piece of what we're going to be doing. And this is the mindset of entrepreneurship. And the mindset of entrepreneurship is that I believe that we need to, our business is only as good as the standards that we set in our business, right? The challenge with being an entrepreneur, either the challenge or the rewards of being an entrepreneurship, is that it all comes down to one person, and that's going to be me, all right? Regardless of what's happening in the world. And therefore, the question that I ask, and the question that I often go back to with my clients, is where do you play? Right? And you'll see me refer back to this, particularly in the conversations that we have. Are you playing below the line or above the line? Because here is where the default position can be for a lot of people if I'm not being really intentional about this. If I'm playing below the line, I'm either blaming somebody else, I'm making excuses, or I'm just in denial, right? I'm in this victim mentality. Now, the fortunate thing about my job is that I get to work with people. I have a handful of clients in the UK, US, a few in Canada. So I get to speak to people from lots of different countries and lots of different industries and lots of different backgrounds. And trust me, there's a lot of people who love blaming the government's new regulations as to why their business is going well, right? They love blaming COVID for denting their business. They love blaming people that they just don't understand the importance of having good IT, or, you know, being aware of your health, or eating good, or whatever it is. They love blaming everybody else for the reason why their business is not going well. Or they're making excuses as to, do you know what, I would do this and this would be great for my business. I just don't have the time to do it. I don't have the support of my spouse, children, parents, whoever it is, right? Or I'm just in denial that this is a problem. I'm just in denial that I believe this is a great piece of marketing. Everybody should be flocking to me. The problem is with them, not with me, right? And the challenge is, the longer that I play here, the risk is that I'm not going to make the changes in my business. However, if I can go above the line, if whatever's happening in the world, whatever's happening within the family, the community, and all of these are the types of things, if I can take responsibility, if I can be held accountable, and if I can take personal ownership of what's going on, then I'm going to be the victor in all of this, right? How can we say this with confidence? Well, there's two things. Number one, if there's anything life has taught me since 2020, is that there's always going to be bad stuff happening in the world, right? Whether it's a global pandemic, whether that's supply chain issues, whether that's a new war that's happening, whether that's interest rates and inflation going through the roof, like it just seems to be constantly something's happening that's affecting my business, right? But what I also know is that regardless of what's happening in the world, there are people out there winning. There are people out there making lots of money. There are people out there who are leading the life that they want to lead. However, they're usually in the minority, right? And I want to look up there and be like, hey, what are these people doing that I'm not? And 9 times out of 10, if not all the time, they're actually in victor mentality, and they're taking responsibility, accountability, and ownership over everything that's going on. Make sense? Good. All right. So the final piece of this is homework number 1 then, if on the assumption that you are still in and you are excited to do this, is that I want you to think about what's your 12-month personal and business goals, right? And, you know, your personal goals, you keep that to yourself, but the business goals is where I really want to help you with. What are your 12-month goals? Probably you've done this, going that we're in January, but if you haven't, this is a really good time to do this. And if you have done this, I just want to give you some guidelines to do this. So I would pick 3 business goals, right? Guidelines say between 3 to 5. Personally, I'm a fan of 3, right? If these are the 3 things that I'm going to be working towards in 2023. And I would encourage you to use the what we call the SMART framework. right? Many of you have maybe come across SMART before, and I'll share this resource with you, but specific, right? Be really specific about what your goal is. Do it in a way that is measurable, that actually I can measure whether I've achieved this or not. Something that's going to spring you into action, that's action orientated. The R in our official documents stands for results orientated. I'm going to ask you to wipe that off, and I'm going to change it to risky, right? If you're looking at your goals and you're like, yeah, I can do this, then I don't think you're aiming big enough. I want your goals to be risky, right? And if that makes you feel nervous, just know that it's probably a good goal, right? Like there's no point being an entrepreneur and just being like, yeah, I can do that. That's great, right? Again, it's a distinction between employee mindset and entrepreneur mindset. Because as an employee, here's what I always used to do as an employee, and maybe it was just me, but hopefully some of you can agree with this, is that when I used to sit down with my boss and would set my goals for the year, I know that my bonus and my pay rise is based on whatever goals we're going for. So if I kind of reduce the bar, then actually my bonus and my pay rise is more likely to be guaranteed, right? However, as an entrepreneur, if you hit, I don't know, 50% growth instead of the 60% that you had set out to do, then that's fine. There's no negative consequences of it. But if you do hit the 60%, there's only upside for you stretching your goals, right? So make your goals a little bit risky, is what I'm going to say. And then time bound, right? What timing are you working to? If you want to get stuff done by June, if you want to get stuff done by the end of the year, whatever that is. But I would encourage you to put a really specific time element to it. It gives you a deadline to work towards. By the way, we don't need to set up our business based on the rotation of the earth. However, if you get to that timeline and you haven't hit it, that's fine. We can push out the deadlines as long as we're working towards it, but it needs to give us a sense of urgency of what we're working towards, right? So that is the homework, if you like, before we start. Let me pause here for any questions. Oh, that's the end of my slideshow. But let me pause here for any questions that you may have regarding anything that we've discussed so far. And you can feel free to come off mute or use the chat box, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, nobody's come off mute and I can't see anything on the chat box right now. So let me just go through three logistical points that I want to make before, and if you have got any questions, just feel free to type it in just in case you were typing. So logistical point number one is just an update on the timings, if you didn't catch that at the start of the call. So we start on January 25th. It is 4 p.m. Central Time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or feel free to convert to your part of the world. Going forward, you can see I like to have my sessions interactive. It's better for me. It's better for you guys. It's better for everybody else. So the request is cameras on, engage, ask questions, answer questions. Let's have a conversation around this. And the third point is, so for those of you who have not paid the fees due for this program, please make sure you do that by the end of the week. You pay that, then we send out the recording links to you. We send out the templates and resources that you have. So I was asking how long will each session be? I will say book off 90 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna aim to have, I'm gonna have content worth kind of 60 to 75 minutes worth, and then I want to leave 15 minutes for any questions and things like that. So I aim to block out 90 minutes. So Asad says 2 a.m. for me. That's dedication. Whereabouts are you in the world, Asad? But that's dedication. That's good. That's above the line stuff. You could have made an excuse and said, nope, doesn't work for my time zone, not doing it. But you're like, no, I'm gonna do it. You're in Pakistan. Okay, good on you. But hey, look, Sleep is important as well. You'll get the recording if you're unable to make the live session for whatever reason. And I'm just checking my notes just to make sure I have covered everything that I want to cover. And yes, so you will be getting a link from NASIMCO for the Zoom call. So, and it'll be a recurring Zoom link. So if you want to put that in your calendar, put the same link in, and then you can make sure that you are in the right place. So, how are you feeling right now, guys? How are you feeling in anticipation for this program? Are you excited, a little bit nervous, a little bit like, oh no, maybe this is not right for me? Okay, Shahid puts excited, great. Safraz, very excited, looking forward to learn how to scale my business. Shaista, excited, it's a great start. Razad, excited. Sohaila, excited and ready to start. Great. I'm excited too. Actually, this has been like a year in the making, so we're really excited to get going. We've got about 25 people registered, I believe. Some of them have said they can't make it live, but I'm confident we're going to have a really great group of people engaged. And what I will say, two things is, number one, hey, this is a great kind of learning experience for all of us. So hopefully our individual businesses can benefit. What I would absolutely love is that we could create a community of people who are supporting each other on this journey, right? I think being an entrepreneur is kind of a lonely place. Being an entrepreneur when you're the only, minority in the room or one of few minorities in the room is a little bit lonelier. But if we have a group of people from the community who are growing our businesses and we can support and help each other and really build a long-term community, I think that would be absolutely amazing and real nice side effect of what we're doing over here. Alias go right, can't wait to start, hoping to get some homework each week to push me a bit more, to be honest. Okay, well, if we're setting too much homework, you know who to blame. The rest of you know, we'll make sure that we are keeping you busy and engaged. And I can see a hand up from Mahmoud. So feel free just to come off Mahmoud, off mute, Mahmoud, if you wanted to say something.
Assalamu alaikum to everybody. I'm sorry I missed the first 20 to 30 minutes of tonight's program. I actually just started a business just a few days ago, and I'd be very happy to share the idea, share the thoughts, and perhaps everybody can Shark Tank it for me. It's a potential $600 million business, and I'd be happy to tell everybody about it. So whenever that opportunity comes about, I'll be happy to share. Thank you very much again.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, hey, congratulations into going to business ownership. You are absolutely in the right pace. I wish I was somewhere like this in my first few days of business. And now you've got a community of people who are going to be supporting, praying, and cheering for you to succeed, you know. And let's see, we probably are not going to have a chance for a Shark Tank opportunity in these sessions. But like I said, we're building a community of entrepreneurs, and who knows where this is going to go. So, hey, look, that brings us to the top of the hour. I'm a few minutes over. So thank you very much for making the effort to be here today. I know it wasn't kind of like scheduled weeks in advance, but I wanted to have an opportunity to say salam and welcome everybody, and for you to make sure that you know that you've made the right decision to be here. Any issues, questions, problems, feel free to get in touch with us, either NASIMCO or myself. Otherwise, we will be seeing you next week. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes if there is anything, but otherwise feel free to leave as you please. Thank you, Shahid. Look forward to seeing you too. And Farzad.